Hello, people. How are you doing today? It's MakedaVoletta, and I'm actually live on my YouTube page. Usually, I'm just on Instagram. Usually, I go live on Instagram and I repost it to YouTube. So, if I'm looking in two cameras, that's why I have one for YouTube and one for Instagram, so I can repost it. Because when I do my lives on YouTube, I can't repost it for some reason. But when I do them on Instagram, I can. So, anyhow, if in case you're unfamiliar with me, again, my name is MakedaVoletta. I am a Harlem, New York native. I currently live in Chicago, and I am a student of culture. I'm a dancer. Um, I am a trainer and stuff, but I'm very interested in history and anthropology. I'm a sacred sexual educator. I'm interested in history and anthropology and the truth, okay? Because when you're dealing with the truth, you're a truth seeker. You're going to be looking at science, you're going to be looking at history, and you're going to be looking at anthropology. And studying Black dance, so I'm a serious student of dances of the African diaspora, particularly in the Americas. So I would say Afro Indigenous dances, places where Africans have been in the Americas. Um, and there's a lot of our history. When I say our history, I mean Afro American history and also history, the history of the Americas. Okay, so in the Caribbean, North America, the Caribbean, South America, Central America, the Americas has an intertwined history. And it's not just because of Africa, right? But that's what, so I've learned so much about our collective history through these dances, saying the dances and the rhythms. And I did a video earlier today for my other YouTube page. I have a few. I have a page called MakedaVoletta Travels. And on that page, I talk a lot about, my traveling culture, observations, things like that, various things. And I did a video earlier about the amount of Black American women, okay, who have been dying in the Gambia. And I'm gonna be careful using certain words because I've never gotten monetized for my videos, but now I'm thinking I do all these videos for free. I should get monetized, but to get monetized, you can't say certain words. So I may speak in code with certain things. I'm used to just speaking how I want to speak. But there's been a lot of Black American women who over 50 who have moved from America to Gambia, which is a West African country, and they are being found unalived, okay? And it's clear that somebody is doing this to them. And there's a lot that I've learned about this in the past 24, 48 hours. Thank you. And as a traveler, and I'm a solo traveler a lot myself, and, when you're a woman, when you're a melanated woman, you have to especially be careful with certain countries and places. And I just wanted to say that, there's just been a lot of talk amongst Black Americans, and I have to put Black in quotations, okay? Because Black is defined, I don't know what that is, that's defined different ways in different countries, okay? Race is a social construct. It's not scientific at all, okay? I'll do a whole nother video about that, but it's not. So your race can vary depending on where you live, right? There's people who are considered Black in America that would not be considered Black in Africa, would not be considered Black in Jamaica, would not be considered Black in Brazil, okay? But there are a lot of Afro Americans, Black Americans, or Americans. I don't like saying African American. I hate that term because all of the people I know from my bloodline, we have no connections to Africa. Our family has been here for as long as we can trace. For as long as I can trace, my family has been on this land. And we have a connection to this land. My culture, the foods I eat, my ancestors are buried here. So there's no way I can say that Africa is my ancestral land when my people are here. Okay, my people have lived and died, born here. And we know I've never met a Black American who didn't know that they had American Indian blood. Okay, I'm not going to get into a long conversation about that. And if you are from this land, if you are from Turtle Island, and you know the Indian tribes, the indigenous tribes that are in your bloodline, please write it. We need to write it more. We need to, not be ashamed of speaking about that and jumping over to claiming Africa all the time when we know nothing about where we come from over there. And DNA tests are not accurate. And the least amount of Africans during the slave trade were brought to North America. Okay, there were a lot more Africans taken to Jamaica, taken to Haiti, Brazil, Colombia, than there was to North America. And there were a lot of American Indians who were also enslaved on this land. So just because somebody was a slave doesn't mean that they came from Africa either. Okay. So, and there's tons of books about this. I post them on my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should definitely follow me on Instagram, because there are things I post on Instagram that I don't post on YouTube, and vice versa. If you're on YouTube, follow me if you're on Instagram, follow me on YouTube, because my Instagram pages get deleted a lot. So there's a lot of things on my YouTube pages, if you scroll through, that you'll find good conversations in the past. But I see a lot of Black Americans, jumping. Somebody said, I'm what you call a true African American. Both of my parents are from Africa, but I was born in the USA. Yeah, to me, and see, that's why I don't like that term African American, because I'm like, it's confusing, because you have people whose parents are from Africa, and then they'll call themselves African American, and we're not from the same bloodline. We don't have the same story, customs, history. It's different in our home. The foods we eat, it's different, right? And so you need a word. We can't be going by the same term. And that confused me when I was in Harlem, walking around, and there's a restaurant that said African American food. And I'm thinking, you think, oh, it's food from here, but it wasn't. It was Senegalese. Now, somebody can say that, well, they shouldn't call themselves African American. They should call themselves Senegalese American, or Nigerian American, or Ghanaian American. And yes, they should. But that's not what happens. A lot of times they also call themselves African American, right? And it's funny because people love to kind of embarrass Americans when we talk about Africa, or say something about, we use the term Africa and Africans. They're always like, don't you know Africa is a continent? It's not a country. And they're always very sarcastic with us about that. But then yet they're calling themselves African American instead of Nigerian American, or Ghanaian American, or Senegalese American, right? But to me, an African American is somebody whose parents came from Africa. Like, even if you're a third generation, my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents came from Senegal or Nigeria, you're an African American. Okay. Also, if one of your parents is American and the other one's African, like I know people who one parent's American, one's Nigerian, you're African American, right? But somebody who, like myself, whose bloodline has been here for, hundreds, or since for as far back as we can trace, that's not, it. So that's why I don't like that term. Because it just totally undermines the indigenous blood here. And we just get told all the Indians died, and that's not true at all. And places like Africa and places like Haiti and Jamaica are way more African. And it doesn't mean that there aren't indigenous people in Haiti and Jamaica as well. But it's a lot less of that. Like, to me, Dominican Republic has a lot more like Taino Arawak blood. Like Dominican Republic, to me, most of them, it's very heavy with the Taino Arawak. Cuba would be number 2. When I'm thinking about the Spanish-speaking countries in the Caribbean, it would be first DR with the highest indigenous, Arawak, Taino, and then I would say Cuba. Cuba, you can see that people are very African, like some of the blackest Africans you've ever seen, to very copper indigenous people. And then Puerto Rico is the least amount. Puerto Rico has a lot of light brights that look like J-Lo. They look very mestizo, very mixed with Spaniard. And maybe they have some Taino, but the indigenous people to the Caribbean and to those islands were copper complected. Okay. The indigenous people to Georgia and South Carolina and Florida were copper complected. Okay. They don't look like the Native Americans that you see in pictures who look Asian and they're pale. Okay. Not the same. Okay. And I'm not going to get into, well, actually, no, I'll talk about that a bit, because that's what this conversation is about. This conversation is about the fact that there's so many Black Americans who are going to Africa, right? They call it the motherland, which I don't consider Africa the motherland. First of all, I feel like all land is sacred. And I kind of think it's wrong to think that one part of the earth is more sacred than another, because there are things that, the whole different land has to offer. However, if I had to say what the motherland was, I would say it was the Americas, okay? Not Africa, because first of all, people come here to make their dreams come true. People come to North America. There's something very magical about North America. It's a country where people who are not from here can come and get top positions in companies, in anything, any career, become top in politics. We've had, like that doesn't happen in other countries. You can't move as a foreigner and get top positions and top jobs and make all this money. And yeah, that's not going to happen as a foreigner, but that can happen in America, right? Um, and people, constantly coming here in that way. But when I look at South America, and I'm like, people talk about the pyramids in Egypt. There's a lot of ancient pyramids in Central America. Central America has some of the most. I mean, you go to Mexico and Belize, and it's like you're walking on ancient land, right? Then, whatchamacallit? What am I trying to say? I'm losing my train of thought. I have a bunch of stuff going on. Okay, let me pay attention. Refocus. We have the Amazon rainforest over here. Okay, and I think it was like 60% of the foods eaten around the world come from the Americas. Okay, corn and tomatoes and chocolate. Yeah, and and this is the so I feel like when Black Americans, okay, now the term African American, nobody says African Jamaican, nobody says African Haitian, nobody says African Brazilian, and they're way more connected to Africa than us, okay? They're speaking African languages there. We're not speaking African languages in America, okay? But having names like Shaniqua and Shay Shay, I don't know, different names that we consider ghetto, they're very much indigenous names from here. So the thing is when I see Black Americans who feel like, oh, I want to find my roots, I need to reconnect with my roots, and they feel like they have to go to Africa, okay? When it's one thing if you know you have a connection to Africa. Like there are Black people in America who know, like someone said, both my parents are African, or my grandparents came from Ghana, and you know that, then yeah. But most of the Black Americans who've been here for generations, they come from Mississippi, they come from Texas, they come from Memphis, they come from freaking the Carolinas even, you know what I'm saying? It was definitely more inland for sure, but even on the coast. And you feel like you need to go to Africa to find your roots and find who you are. And it's crazy to me because it's like people just totally ignore Quilla is a Mayan word. Oh, wow. Yeah. And there was that woman, Shan Quilla. Guyana just found a lot of oil. Yeah. The Americas has a lot of gold. People talk about the resources in Africa, but like to me, East Africa looks very lush. When I look at West Africa, it looks depleted. There's barely any trees. I keep seeing people build houses in Ghana and like different parts of West Africa, and they're like, "Oh, look at this beautiful house! Look at how much I paid!" And it's like no trees around. The trees that they have look parched and skinny. It's just the vegetation looks terrible. I don't see any flowers. You know what I'm saying? The land does not look as lush and as fertile as the land in North America, Central America, South America, and a lot of the Caribbean, like Cuba. Cuba's very lush. Oh my God, I've never seen soil like what I saw when I was in Cuba. And, Colombia and Mexico. And I've never been to St. Lucia, but I've seen photos of St. Lucia. It's so lush. Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. I mean, we have a lot of lushness and fertile land over here. And so I just feel like Africa, the ones who are moving to Africa because they're like, I'm going to connect to my roots. I feel like they're the lost ones, okay? Because there's a lot. I mean, there's such differences between how we are culturally. Like, for example, a lot, just our family structures, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of differences. And to just forget about your roots here. Like, let's say you know that you have ancestry here, which I've never met a Black person in America that didn't know that they had roots here, okay? And so to just ignore that, to completely ignore that and go fly across the Atlantic Ocean to whatever African country you decide to go to, but you have no idea, even if your people came from Africa, if they came from Ghana, or if they came from Nigeria, or if they came from Senegal, you have no idea. So you're just going to some random, and they're like, oh, I'm trying to connect with my roots. And everything about how they function is completely different than us, including women being single and women speaking up about things. People don't even respect you if you're a woman a lot of times and you're speaking about something. I mean, there's just so many differences. And I think that a lot of Black Americans move over there and then they get a rude awakening. And I remember my dad told me in the 60s, because he was heavily involved in the civil rights movement around a lot of Pan-Africanists and, Black radicals. And he said everybody he knew that left America and moved to Africa in the 60s, they all moved back, okay? Because it was not what they thought. Like they had culture shock. They all moved back. Women have no upward ability in other countries. That's a fact. And so when I see Black men here complaining about feminism, it's like, first of all, you sound very ignorant because there's different kinds of feminism. I remember taking a class when I was in college called Intro to Feminist Theory because I was curious. And I learned that there's many different kinds of feminism, all right? They don't all share the same opinions. So when people talk about feminist in a box, like all feminists are the same, it's ridiculous. When what feminists, it's like really calling somebody who's fighting for the rights of Black people, and you're calling them a Black supremacist, and they're all radicals, and it's just bad. It's the same type of thing when people talk about feminists, because even though there's different kinds of feminists with different beliefs who don't agree with each other, the main thing about feminism is just equality for women. You know what I'm saying? So like you have so many countries, and even in America, there was a point women couldn't vote, women couldn't own a business, women couldn't buy a car without a man, couldn't buy a house without a man. So now when you're that stuck in that situation, there's a lot of women who are going to be in abusive situations and they cannot get out because they cannot survive, okay, without the man. They literally can't do anything without him. And so a lot of feminism was freeing women from that. So for someone to think that women should still be stuck in that situation is you're absolutely out your mind. A lot of countries, upward mobility for women is hard. And so when Black women are coming from America and we're speaking up and we're being assertive and they can't stand that. So there's a lot of Black Americans who are moving to Ghana and places and getting scammed. And I'm not saying it's happening to everybody. Okay. But there's a lot of that. If you look on YouTube, you see a lot of that. People who thought they bought certain land that didn't belong to them. They don't understand how the tribal stuff is working and the chiefs and all these things. And a lot of times people just really want your money. You know what I'm saying? Africans aren't looking at us like we're their brothers and sisters. They look at us like people from foreign lands. They are very tribal themselves. A lot of times they don't like people in their own country is from a different tribe. So what makes you think that you coming from across the Atlantic Ocean, that they look at you like you're their brother or sister? That's not it. Somebody said, if you think you can go to another country and not speak the language, you're crazy. I don't know what you're saying. But so I just feel like, and as a student of Black dance, I said I studied dances of the African diaspora, particularly in the Americas. And the thing is that there are a lot of dances throughout the Americas that you can tell that indigenous people here were coming in contact with Africans. It doesn't always mean, sometimes those people were Africans. Like, Africans and indigenous people did collaborate together and work together and create together and fight together. That is true. There's a history of that all throughout the Americas. And sometimes it's just, some of the people aren't even African. Okay, they might have been around Africans and exchanging with Africans, as Africans were exchanging with indigenous people here. Because if you're coming to a new land with new flora and fauna, if you understand Native American Indian or African spirituality, you're dealing with spirits and spirits that are connected to plants and herbs and things and animals. So if you come from Africa over here, you're going to have to learn from the indigenous people here. Just like if we go to Africa, we have to learn from Africans about how certain things work and certain plants that's foreign to us. So there was always an exchange of information. That was always happening. Yeah, that was always happening, right? And so with studying these things like Haitian voodoo, for example, they'll say, oh, it's African, it's African, it's African. But actually, Haitian voodoo is half indigenous to the island, okay, coming from the Arawak, whatever indigenous group was there. and half African. But the spirits that were responsible for the Haitian Revolution were not African, and this is well known. They were not. They came from that island, the land of Haiti. Okay, they didn't. There were no war gods. Okay, coming out of Africa into Haiti. They were all coming from that land. Okay, they went to the Omix location. Yeah, so um, to just bypass, and there's a difference between African dance and Black dance in the Americas. There's a difference. Okay, even we look at how people in Ghana dance. I love how they dance, but it's not how we dance over here. You can see similarities, footwork and soul, Um, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I could do a very in-depth talk about that, but I'm just saying the indigenous people of the Americas and Africans have been intermingling and creating for a long time, okay, even prior to enslavement. And the slave trade was not just Africans coming to America and being enslaved. There was also American Indians from North America being sent to the Caribbean to be enslaved, okay? And American Indians or North American soil being enslaved who were copper complected. If you look at the primary documents, the colonizers talk about the darkness of the people here who are already here, and the copper colored skin, the dark skin, okay? So yeah, so that was always the case. So I'm just saying, like, I just feel like a lot of the people who are just up and jumping and moving to Africa because they're like, oh, the motherland, and I want to connect to my home and I want to return home. Well, you don't know that anybody in your bloodline was ever there. You have no connection to that land. Okay. To me, that only will attract people who are already lost. Okay. Yeah, Obeah is in Jamaica. Did somebody say Obeah was someplace else? Obeah is what we call it in Trinidad. I thought Obeah was only in Jamaica as well. And Guayanin means golden Arawak languages. So Guyana. So you're saying that Guyana really is meaning gold in the Arawak language. And see, there's a lot of resources in the Americas. The Americas is beautiful, lush, full of resources. Okay. Yes, not an African term, a Caribbean term. Yeah, so like in Caribbean Spanish, Caribbean English, Caribbean French, okay, there are a lot of times indigenous words mixed into that. American English, same thing. Um, and there's a difference between even people who practice traditional African religions in the Americas. Everybody knows they don't do it the same way Africans do it. There are changes. Even certain deities, that are mixed in these traditional African religions over here who have deities from here, okay? And so I just know for me, it could be different, like you're from the Caribbean, I know for me, my bloodline being from North America, from Florida, I feel very connected to this land. I come from people who fought for this land. I think that North America is beautiful. I think that the Americas is beautiful. South America, Central America, beautiful. And I don't feel, when I went to Senegal, that didn't feel like home to me at all. But when I was in the Dominican Republic, when I was in Colombia, that felt more like home. Okay. Cuba for sure. You know what I'm saying? Those places felt more like home to me than when I was in Senegal. Now, there are other West African countries I want to go to. But even when I look at it, it's not, that doesn't feel like home to me. And I just feel like to just jump over the Americas, because even if you're from, like my bloodline being from Florida on both sides, there was a lot of back and forth between Florida and Cuba, and Florida and Haiti, and those indigenous people moving around, the people moving around, within those lands. And so to me, going to places like that, reading about my dad's hometown, St. Augustine, Florida, which was very much connected to Matanzas, Cuba. And there was many points in history when a bunch of people from St. Augustine went to Matanzas. I remember when I saw a man in New York who told me I looked like a woman in his family. He's from the Bahamas, but he came from a family called the Bowlegs, which is a very well-known Black Seminole family in Florida. And so just like this and then Samana, Dominican Republic, there's several Black Americans who went from Philly to Samana because there are white people in Philly who were trying to send the Black people back to Africa. But the Black people knew that Africa wasn't their home and they weren't trying to do that. And so the president of Haiti invited them to move to the Dominican Republic. Look at Samana, okay? Because we're not from across that ocean. And again, I can't talk about everybody's bloodline. Some people's are, but there's a lot. They lied to us when they told us all the Indians died. That's not true. That's not true in Dominican Republic, and it's not true in North America. Somebody said, when did I go? When did you go to Cuba? I went to Cuba 5 times from 2016 to 2018. Oh, those are the days. I went to Havana 3 times and Santiago de Cuba twice. The Yamasi became Seminole. Yeah. I learned about the Yamasi when I was living in Pittsburgh in 2009. But the Seminole, is definitely on both sides of my bloodline. I learned about Yamasi. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, it makes sense. Do I speak Spanish? Un poco. Somebody said a lot of people don't realize that all people groups started off with phenotypes that we've been taught to classify as Black and African, but all life did not start on that continent. I agree with you. I have been saying that, and I have a science background. I didn't mention that in the beginning of the video. Some of you people might know that, some of you don't. But I have a background in the biological sciences, and I have in genetics, and I have never believed that we all come from one person in Africa. That is a damn lie, okay? Someone said at one time the continents were not separated by water. I'm from America and I'm staying. I'm staying in America too. My bloodline's all over the place from Haiti to Central America, and I'm from Brazil. Well, that's all the Americas. Haiti, Central America, and Brazil. That's all in the Americas. Now, does it mean that there's not some African or European or Asian? Because there's also Europeans and Asians in Haiti and Central America and Brazil. You know what I'm saying? So those are just lands. So like what are the ethnic groups? Because I do have, my mom's side of the family, I have Polish blood. My dad's side of the family, his mother, their family came from an island off the coast of Spain called Minorca. So most Black people in America are mixed. You know what I'm saying? So people are so against, I'm not mixed, I'm all Black, I'm full Black. Like most people in America have different things in their bloodline. That is also true. And Black and African are not the same. Agreed. I mean, to me, Black is just like a made up term. You know what I'm saying? Like, my skin is not black. You know what I'm saying? It's not. And I hate the term Black and brown because what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? What does that mean? Because a lot of times, a lot of times people are saying brown to mean everybody that's not Black, or they mean Hispanics, or do they mean Indian people? And even when you're talking about Hispanics, you have white ones, you have indigenous ones who are really a lot of times red colored, copper complected. You have ones who are Asian. You got ones who are very African. So what does that mean, Black and brown? You know what I'm saying? And then the Black, when people say Black, they're usually talking about Black Americans. But you have Black Americans who are light bright. So I just don't understand the whole Black and brown comment. It makes no sense. It's like, what are you talking about exactly? What are you talking about exactly? And so I have used the term Afro-Indigenous, but I honestly can't even point to any concrete evidence that I have any African ancestry. It's just like you just go by default because that's what you were told. That, oh, African, and I'm from North America. Like, when I went to Jamaica, I felt like I was in Ghana. And I learned later that most of the Black people in Jamaica came from Ghana. I didn't know that, but that's what I thought. I feel like I'm in Ghana. If you come to America and you go to different cities, people don't look like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might have we look a lot of different ways. We have a lot of different features, a lot of different, but it's not like everybody is dark skinned and looking like they're from Ghana. The features and the complexion, it's not like that. We're a lot more varied. And when you look at people like Pam Grier, Shaka Khan, Felicia Rashad and her sister, what's her name? Rosa Parks. They look straight up Cherokee. That's what the indigenous people from this land look like. Okay. I've been to Dominican Republic and I've been to Haiti. Haiti looks way more African than the Dominican Republic. I'm not saying there aren't indigenous people in the Dominican Republic and indigenous bloodlines, and I'm not saying that there's not African bloodlines in Dominican Republic, but Haiti is way more African and Dominican Republic is way more indigenous. Yes, freckles, all of that. Am I on TikTok yet? I'm on it, but I don't understand how it works. Okay, I need someone to like explain to me how it works, because I see people cutting and posting videos, and I don't understand it, and I'm so busy, I don't have time to learn it. But people keep telling me I should be on it, so if I can figure it out, I will get on it. Someone said Black is what indigenous people groups are labeled when foreigners are taking over their lands. Same thing that happened to us in America happened to Australia, Tasmania, Oceania, and now something else. So yeah, I like to look. That's why I said I'm into history and anthropology. And when you look at the primary documents, you can see. I don't like the term Afro. I can understand that. See, the thing for me is people say Afro-Cuban, Afro-Haitian, right? Afro-Brazilian. The reason why I don't mind the term Afro is because some of us either we have some African in our bloodline, or if we don't even, right? Even if you don't, even if you're straight, even if your bloodline is straight indigenous from North America, still a lot of us have come in contact with Africans, because when you look at the dances and certain things that we do, you can see that influence, right? So sometimes you have people that lived amongst the people. And this is the same thing with tribes anywhere. You have people that lived amongst the tribe and they were adopted into that tribe, but they didn't come from that same bloodline. But they might have grown up with that tribe and had certain customs, but they're not from the same bloodline. So that's why I don't mind the Afro part. You know what I'm saying? But African American, I can't stand. And see, as someone who studies, that's a myth that Jamaicans are from Ghana. Okay, I don't know about that. To me, they look like they're from Ghana. Like, and I know that they're indigenous people on the island of Jamaica too, but to me, they don't. Jamaica looks way more African to me than, let's say, Cuba, Dominican Republic, North America, Colombia, Brazil. I don't see Jamaica looks a lot more African, and to me, I felt like they look like they're from Ghana. And there are some people who are claiming like, we never had any interactions with Africans, and that's not true. Because as someone who studies the dance and the music, you can see it. You can see the Congo influence all throughout the Americas. You can see it in certain rhythms that have come from Africa that you see in the music. Okay, but they may have changed in different ways with instruments over here, but you can see it. So that was definitely there. And sometimes it may not be in someone's bloodline. Like you have somebody that calls themselves Afro-Puerto Rican. They may not have any African blood in their bloodline, but they might have grown up in that culturally, because race is a social construct. So it has to do with race. It has to do with not just your bloodline, but also culture, right? And it's an arbitrary thing. So that's why you have to define it in the conversation of how you're defining something. But I definitely feel like the whole year of the return in Ghana was just a scam for them to get us Black Americans, or I'm saying Black Americans because everybody knows what I'm talking about, but the copper-complected people of the Americas, you want to call them foundational Americans, true Americans, Niji is what some people use. So whatever suits your boat. But I think that people in Ghana and all these African countries giving us citizenship, they just want us to come there and spend our money. I don't think that they actually care about us and are thinking, oh, that's my brother and my sister. They're not thinking that, okay? They're not. That's an American concept of thinking, oh, we're everybody that's brown, we're all the same. That's a falsity. I prefer Black over Afro. I don't like Afro-Caribbean or Afro-Jamaican. Okay, yeah, I prefer Afro because it's like African. It's giving like Afro-ish, except that Jamaica and Haiti in Brazil and Colombia have way more concrete connections to Africa than Black Americans do. And there are people in Cuba who are straight up African. Like you could tell they didn't mix with any indigenous people. And then there's people who look like they mixed with both. I saw the same thing when I was in Costa Rica. And a lot of the black people in Costa Rica are coming from Jamaica, and they look straight up African. And then you can see the indigenous people who are brown. And then you see the people who mix with the two who look like Black Americans, okay? And so black to me is like, that's a color, and it's confusing because most people, like in Spanish, when somebody's called negra or negro, they really are black. Okay, the blackest people I've ever seen in Colombia and Cuba were like the color black. I have never seen anybody that dark in America, like several shades darker than Wesley Snipes. Never seen that. And that's what they call in Latin America. They would never call me negra. I'm not negra, I mean morena in Latin America, right? So black to me, people say black, and you got people that damn near look white and they're saying they're black. I'm like, in what world? In what world is Meghan Markle black? Okay, only in America. Let her go to Africa. Let her go to goddamn Brazil or anywhere else talking about she's black, and it's like, you're not black. So that black, I'd rather speak about, you know, somehow something that's referencing bloodlines and nations. Those Tahitian hip dances are not Africans, but Africans think they own moving the hips. That's true. And not all Africans move the hips. The Congolese do. The Congolese rule that. Okay, nobody moves the hips better than the Congolese. But not all Africans move their hips. And you're right about the Tahitian dance. They have nothing. Those dances have nothing to do with Africa. That's a fact. I get tired. I like credit to be given where it's due. I don't like everybody always like everything came from Africa, 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 and you're not giving credit where it's due, because that's not true. Yep, there was contact between indigenous Americans and Africans. Sadly, people don't seem to grasp that all livable continents, especially the ones that had and have rainforests, produce melanin-dominant people. Facts. Any place that had a lot of sun, okay, intense sun produced melanin-dominant people. And people were moving around the world, okay? People have been moving around the world, okay, around the planet. So I agree with all of that. And I don't think most people are a pure bloodline, but there are a lot of people who are claiming Africa who have no connection, not a damn single connection to it. Somebody told you that in school. And there's a lot of stories of people coming home and telling their family that we come from Africa. And the family's like, no, we don't. Your own family is telling you we don't. And you're like, no, but the school said. That's how they're brainwashing people. You've got to listen to your family. How many of you have spoken to elders before they passed about where they come from, what their bloodline is? Like, Sorry, something in that tea now. But I think I've gotten the point across. I need to go do stuff with my day. Definitely follow my other page, MakedaVoletta Travels, because I posted a whole video about these Black American women who've been mysteriously, okay, I'm going to speak in code because I don't want to keep mysteriously getting founding unalive, okay, in the Gambia. And it's creepy. Okay, I made a video about that on my YouTube page, MakedaVoletta Travels. I will post the link below. You have to check that out. Definitely follow me on Instagram at the Renaissance Amazon. Okay, so it's the Renaissance Amazon 9. So there's an underscore. Okay, I'm not putting words. Maybe one day I'll edit my videos and put words on it. But there's an underscore in between each word. I will also write it below. So it's the underscore Renaissance underscore Amazon underscore the number 9, okay? The Renaissance Amazon 9 with an underscore in between each one. So find me on Instagram. Those of you like my dance videos, I post more dance videos on Instagram. I'll post even more dance videos on my loyal fans. Follow my other Instagram page, MakedaVoletta Travels, and my YouTube page, MakedaVoletta Travels. But that's where you can find the video about the women's in the Gambia. And I have a lot more to say about that. I need super chats. I know. I have it on my other page, The Body Scientist. On this page, my dance videos are keeping me from getting monetized. So a lot of you want me to dance more, and I keep telling you, come on to my loyal fans page, okay? Because I actually get penalized when I post dance videos here. It takes away from me being able to get monetized, okay? And so I'm doing these videos for free. I don't get paid by YouTube to do these videos. I've been on YouTube since 2010. That's 14 years. Okay. Don't get paid for these videos. My other page, The Body Scientist, okay. My other YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81, just got monetized, but I barely get anything from over there. I don't know if I've even made $1 yet because I don't get as many views over there. Okay. I get a lot. I have the most followers and the most views on this page, and I do not get monetized at all. Okay. So when I post dance videos, it's like it counts against me. So I don't post them that much, and I won't be posting them that much. I post a little bit more on Instagram and a lot more on my loyal fans page. Okay. So if you keep saying you love seeing me dance and you want to see more, then come join me on Loyal Fans. Okay. I'll put that link below as well. Loyalfans.com/copper showgirl. Loyalfans.com/copper showgirl. Okay. So that will be below, and that's where I'm always dancing. I do have a Patreon page, but I don't understand how to post videos on Patreon. Like, Patreon doesn't really make sense to me because it seems like it's not easy to upload videos. You're welcome. Please, if you learn something from this video, please like it. Please share it. That helps as well. Definitely share it with people. I just feel like those are, you know what, even braids, okay? Let's say like my hair right now. It is really black people over here, whatever you want to call it, Afro-Indigenous black people over here in the Americas, who I feel like perfected hair braiding for real. And even the whole Black is beautiful and having natural hair and afros and with the locks and the braids. Like, it was always known in Harlem that the Africans would make you go bald. Okay. They were never the best hair braiders. The best hair braiders came from North America, came from the Caribbean. I see the neighborhood I live at in New York. The neighborhood the neat locks are from America. Exactly. The styling that's done, my hair has been locked for 24 years. Okay. And there's been a lot, a huge increase in the styling. When I was in Cuba has a very natural hair. Like, the women have braids, but you could tell in Cuba, the way you could tell who's a Black American and who's Cuban, because we look just like them, is the fact that it's the hair. Because Cubans have like a lot of nice braids and stuff, but they don't style their locks the way we do. Okay. Same thing with Africa. Okay. And when I'm in my neighborhood in New York, Washington Heights, I look at Dominicans and their cornrow. They cornrow some crazy designs. I don't see African men ever having their hair cornrowed with all those intense designs in their head, intense cornrows. So to me, that's something that's from over here. I've never seen that. The ones Bob Marley have are different from the ones you have. Yes, it is. Just let fans send to a regular online money account. I don't know what that means, but I do have CashApp, and I have Zelle, and I have PayPal. So I'll put that below my videos. So if you ever want to donate, that's appreciated, because I do all these videos for free, and I would do more if I actually made money doing them. And that's why I'm going to stop posting so many dance videos, because I would like to get monetized. But yeah, I'll post my CashApp, my Zelle, all that stuff below. I'll post my loyal fans below, all of that information. Even the high top box is from America. What is a high top box? Thank you for the compliment. Someone said that they learned a lot from my videos. Keep up the work, and a very smart and beautiful woman. Thank you. I appreciate that. Definitely check out my videos on my page, MakedaVoletta Travels. You definitely want to hear what I was talking about with the woman being deleted in Ghana, the Black American woman, what they think of us, okay? Because a lot of Africans are not happy with Black Americans coming over to Africa. And I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them aren't. They're looking at us like, you're taking our tribal lands, you're taking our ancestral lands, and that is their ancestral lands. It's not ours, okay? But yet we're so welcoming to people when they come over here. And yet I always see Africans and Caribbeans, Black Americans didn't like me and they gave me a hard time. And they're always talking about some childhood shit. Kids make fun of everybody. When you're a kid, if you're from the South and you come to the North, they're going to make fun of you. If you are fat, they're going to make fun of you. Cross-eyed, whatever. Kids make fun of people. But how have adults treated you? You know, Black Americans are more than welcoming to the diaspora. And a lot come to America totally disrespecting us, not caring. And then you have all these Black Americans who idolize Africa, put it on the pedestal, when a lot of Africans really kiss up to white people. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them do. And you go over there and they don't want you there. You know what I'm saying? They're scamming you. They're trying to be a friend to take your money. You got people getting in marriages and their spouses are unaliving them. Definitely check out my video on my page, MakedaVoletta Travels. I'll post it below. Yeah, someone said you're right. You can't use the things that's happening to children, and that's always people. I hate when people be stuck in their childhood, still crying about something from then. Like it's one thing if you were badly abused by a parent and you're crying about that, I understand that. But crying about somebody making fun of you, you know what I'm saying? It's just like everybody got made fun of. It's so ridiculous. People be big grown and still mad about that. Look up the population in the Amazon. They have the same. They have Australian DNA. Okay, the Aborigines in Australia are like a different species. Okay, like you know how they say it's like Homo sapiens and Homo erectus and da da da, and they all died off and we were all Homo sapiens. I never believed that. I never believed that we were all Homo sapiens and that all the other Homo species died off. And then they said, so they said that for years, and then like maybe a decade or so ago, Scientific American came out with an article and said, "Oh no." There's still Neanderthals in Europe. Like, we're not all the same species. And Aborigines to me look like a different species. They don't look like the rest of us humans on the earth. They just don't. Yeah. And I've also seen that the Aborigines have some of the most ancient bloodlines, you know, but we don't all come from the same place. I have never believed that we all came from the same place. It's super naive to believe that. This earth is too complex. This universe, the galaxies are too complex, right? And I think that the Black people who are leaving America and moving to Africa because they're like, that's my home and my homeland, and I'm coming to, a lot of them are having a rude awakening. And I just feel like if you want to connect to your ancestors, you have to start on the land that you're on, the land that you know, your parents, your great grandparents, your great great grand, all for as far back as you can trace, and you know they're here. You have to start here. You know, reclaim the land here. Do you know how much has been taken from us on this land in North America? You know how many times we've been robbed? We're owed things here. We shouldn't allow all these outsiders to come here and take our shit when it's already been taken by whitey, okay? The colonizers. And now we're letting other foreigners come in. No, I'm not jumping ship and running to a third world country and helping them build up and let them scam me. That's not my home. That's not my ancestral home. God forbid you die over there. You're going to stress your family out trying to get your body back. That's not it. That's not it. This is why at birth, you know, a lot of cultures bury the placenta. That connects you to a land. If your placenta was buried here, you're not supposed to go die over there. You're connected to this land. The umbilical cord is what connects you to your mother. Okay? Mother Earth. And what do I think of the migrant issues? I think I talked about that on my other page, MakedaVoletta Travels, or maybe I've talked about it on other videos here. Check my videos in both places. I'll do a separate video about that because I do have to go. But I think that the migrant issues are out of control. I think that people from different countries should get different kinds of consideration. Like I feel like people who are coming from Central America or Haiti should be considered differently than people who are coming from Africa and Asia. Why should people limit themselves? There are a lot of businesses in Africa, and you can own properties there too. I don't want to own a business or property in Africa. And people don't have to limit themselves. I'm saying that a lot of Black Americans here are going over there. Like it's one thing if you had businesses in America and you had businesses in Africa, but a lot of people are completely jumping ship from here and going to Africa. And I'm saying that's not smart because first of all, they scam. Like in America, if you buy land or something, there's paperwork, there's accountability. So if you buy land or somebody scammed you, there's ways you can go to court. There's ways, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that over there. You know what I'm saying? The way people operate, you need something done. They tell you tomorrow, they take 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Who has time for that? And it's like that's, and when you're going over there, it's one thing if you're just going to Africa because you want to open up a business there. Like somebody might say, I want to go to China for business reasons. But when you're saying you want to go to Africa for ancestral reasons and you want to connect with your roots, when are your roots even there? How are your roots there? If you don't have a tangible connection and you're just jumping over this and just saying, oh, America's so terrible, America's so terrible. But yeah, if America's so terrible, why are so many Africans over here? There's like millions of Africans coming here every single year. So if Africa was so great, why are there so many Africans all over America right now? And Europe, where Europeans are like trying to kick them out and not give them citizenship. Why is that the case if there's so many, if Africa's so great? We are in the nationals of America, yeah. The grass is not greener. Problems in any continent or country you go to. Exactly. Somebody said, you think Africa is a jungle. Stop talking about where you've never been to. I didn't say anything about Africa being a jungle. I say exactly what I mean. I never said the word jungle the whole time I spoke. So you obviously aren't smart enough to speak to me. And I've been over to Africa, okay? Not only have I been there, but I see it all the time. First of all, some of the worst air in the world is in West Africa. Ghana and Nigeria and Senegal have some of the worst air quality in the world. I literally could not breathe over there. And their air quality, if you look at this, the top 50 cities with bad air, they're like all in India and Africa, okay? It's not as lush. West Africa, I think East Africa is a lot lusher. West Africa is not as lush as Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Cuba, Costa Rica, New York State. Okay, it's not. And people are definitely scamming over there, and they're definitely scamming Black Americans. And there's tons of the video that I did earlier where I was talking about the Black American women who are turning up not alive in Gambia. There's several Africans that are writing comments talking about how their own family will poison them when they go home. They don't eat food from their certain family members. They don't eat food from certain restaurants. They only cook because people try to poison them. And I've had many African friends tell me that. It's just too much shit to be worried about. And so Black Americans who are thinking, oh, Africa, those are my brothers and sisters and they love us. And no, that's not how Africans are looking at us. They're looking at us like they want our money. There's a lot of scamming, and that's a fact. I never said the word jungle, so smarten up before you start saying anything to me. If anything, I think that South America is the jungle, and Central America. I've stayed in the jungles of Costa Rica, okay, in the rainforest, all right, and I love that. I love that over some dry, dusty, arid air. I hate the desert. I need wetness, rain, a lot of greenery, life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I like. You have to check out the last video I posted. Yes, you do, because there's a number of Black American women who over 50 who are being unalived in Gambia. And even if you can check out my video that I did about it, and under the video that I did about it, I posted several links for other people's videos talking about this. Or you can go to YouTube and you can search it, but you can look at the links that I put up there of these conversations. And several Black American women and who have left the Gambia because of things that have happened that they were afraid to talk about. Okay. And there was a video of a Ghanaian woman where she posted going off on Black Americans because she felt like, she was in America, in New York, talking about, oh, you guys are going to Ghana and you're just going there to party, and you're not going to check out the culture and learn the culture and see how kente cloth is made. And I hope that Ghana blocks your passports. And she's saying all these nasty things while she's in America. And I'm sure she hasn't gone around America to learn about American culture, because New York ain't the place to do it. New York is an international city full of people from everywhere else. All right. I'm sure she hasn't gone around America to do that, because Africans move to America all the time and don't take the time out to do that. And they are chastising us. And when Black Americans go travel to Africa, they go to the markets and try to support locals. Africans don't have that mindset when they come to America. They're not like, oh, let me go check out the Black American part of town and support their businesses. They don't do that. They don't do that. So, yeah, so I'm going to leave that right there. Definitely check out my video. I'll post it below that I did earlier, MakedaVoletta Travels. You should know about these Black American women who are being deleted. And there's other strange things happening. Okay, there's another chick that I followed on YouTube. She moved from LA to Senegal, and she with her kids, and her house got robbed in her sleep. They like drugged her or something and took all her stuff, and nobody woke up. And so I'm seeing, apparently that's a thing, and I'm seeing people talk about that. We don't. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there that's like regular that we don't know about, and it's foreign, and they're not looking at you like, oh, I'm going to protect you, my brother, my sister, like how you think. A lot of these Black Americans are leaving America because they're like, oh, I feel like an outsider, and and the police won't leave me alone. When the police are way worse in Africa. Deal with the police in Nigeria. You got to constantly pay the police in Ghana. Okay, even in Jamaica, those police are corrupt as hell. Way worse in the United States. Okay, corrupt police is not solely an American problem. It's a worldwide problem, and American police are not the worst of them. Every country has pros and cons, as somebody said, and I would rather deal with American cons over anybody else's, and this is where my bloodline is from. So I'm not going to try to find myself by moving to a foreign land across the Atlantic Ocean with people who don't look like me, don't eat the foods that I like to eat, have very different customs and culture. That's not home to me. And I feel like you're lost if you're a Black American and you feel like you need to, unless you know, like some people said, my parents are from Africa, my great grandparents. But if you're like somebody whose bloodline's from here from generations and you're jumping over there to find yourself or to find your roots, when your roots are here, your roots is where your people are buried. Do you know where your people are buried in Africa? What has your family told you? Because a lot of people have been brainwashed not to listen to what their grandmother and their great grandmother told them about their bloodlines. We've been shamed to not mention our indigenous blood. And more of us need to do that. Someone asked, where can they message me privately? You can message me privately on my Loyal Fans page and on Instagram. Okay, people, so I'm going to head out. Check out my videos. Do your research. If you like this video, please like it. Please share it. If you want to see more of my dancing, you can find me on Loyal Fans. If you want to give donations for my videos, I'll put stuff below. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.